What's up, everyone? It's your girl Shay here. Welcome to my channel. If you are new, welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. And as you can see by the title of today's video, I'm talking about a very interesting article that I found on CBR.com. And I will, of course, link the article below if you want to read it for yourself. But the title of the article is 10 Shoujo Anime Everyone Seems to Either Love or Hate. So the main reason why I want to talk about this is because the title that they give for the shoujo animes that they chose is misleading towards the reasoning on why people are polarizing on these particular shoujo anime shows. And let me just say, for me personally, I never thought of these shows as being polarizing, of the people you meet either saying they hate the show or that they love the show. I've, for the life of me, have never heard any of this regarding any of the shows on this list. Granted, mostly just the ones that I know, which are probably about, I don't know, maybe 6 to 7 of them on this list I have actually seen. But once again, it's not something that I ever really heard, at least on my side of anime Twitter or anime YouTube or anime TikTok. Have I ever heard people saying that these shows were polarizing on whether or not they liked them? And like I said, some of the titles that they give before listing their reasoning for why people find these shows either like they love or hate them is kind of like not true. Like, to me, it's kind of like clickbaity, I guess, just a little bit. But let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I'm going to link the article down below, but I am going to go through the shows that I know of, like speak verbatim what they actually wrote and their reasoning for why people or why viewers have said it's kind of like hit or miss for them on whether or not they like it. And also let me know if you agree. But I'm going to give my opinion on this. Once again, these are my opinions about these shows or their reasonings, so you don't have to agree with me. But the first one they have on here is Fruits Basket, and they put Toru Honda loses her mother and moves in with a suspicious family. So when I first read that, I was like, oh, like, are people just kind of like polarized on it because of like how weird the concept is of like, hey, you have this family she knows nothing about and she just happens to move in with them, which is kind of already sketchy if you think about it a little bit, like in a realistic standpoint. But then it goes on to say like, it says this anime has an incredibly unique storyline and plot. However, some viewers don't like this anime as it feels like a soap opera and the characters can be difficult to like. I am confused because they're saying it feels like a soap opera. It's a shoujo anime that takes place a majority of the time, or the majority of the ages of the people that are involved are in high school. Of course, it's going to seem like a weird soap opera just a little bit because there's going to be a lot of drama involved. Now, me personally, I enjoyed Fruits Basket overall. I thought it was a great show. I love the plot. I also, me personally, love the characters. I liked how different they were. And as far as some of them being difficult to like, I'm not going to say any of them were difficult to like, but maybe your perception of some characters changed throughout the series. Like, for example, when you first meet Shigure, you originally actually really, really like him, or at least for me, I really liked him. I thought he was great. I thought he was humorous. I thought he was really, really funny. But then as the series went on, especially in the second and like the third season, he got a little bit more conniving and a little bit more manipulative. So you didn't like him as much, but that was just how his character progressed. There were no characters though that I can say, oh, it's so hard for me to like them. To be honest, like, I liked all the characters involved and I liked the roles that they all played. So for me, once again, the headline they chose is kind of clickbaity, and then their reasoning I completely don't agree with. The next one they have on here is Kamesamaki Kiss, and it says Naname's life changes when she becomes the goddess of a local shrine. And they go on to say, but it says this anime has a unique take on Japanese mythology, but the sounds and the characters can drive people away. I'm confused. Do they mean like the sounds as far as like the characters' voices? And to me, that just kind of depends on if you're a sub or dub lover and how you feel about the people that are voicing said characters. And as far as the characters say they can drive people away, is it the characters' personalities? Like, they didn't like go on and explain a little bit more as far as like what about the characters or the sound can make it where people dislike or have a love-hate relationship with the show. I have only seen the first season of Kamesamaki, so I don't entirely remember it overall, but I do remember that I actually enjoyed the show. I thought it wasn't terrible. I enjoyed the characters that were in it. I didn't mind the voices either. I believe I watched it subtitled because at the time the dub was not out. So yeah, that's the most that I can say about this, but yeah, once again, kind of a little bit clickbaity overall. The next one that I knew of was Orwan High School Host Club. Now it says, Haruhi Fujioka destroys a vase and must work as a host to pay for it. Now at first, when I first read this title, I was like, oh, people are gonna probably be like, oh, that's so like manipulative that they're like, oh, to pay for it, you have to work for us, which is already in the show. Like, that's actually what happens. So when I first read that, I was like, okay, yeah, maybe some people can have a love relationship with that sort of a plot device happening at the beginning, but it gets better, you know, as the series goes on and she starts to make a connection with the characters. But then it goes on to say, it is a funny, fluffy anime, but the reverse harem aspect can make this unenjoyable for some. Okay, maybe that can be true. Yes, there are people who don't enjoy the reverse harem sort of genre within anime, but to me that's also no different than people who, you know, have an issue with harem animes where you have one guy and a whole bunch of girls in the show. So I don't know, this one's kind of hit or miss once again for me as far as like the reasoning is involved, but I personally have not heard anyone say that they don't enjoy the reverse harem genre. That's just me personally, that I have never heard. No one within my circle of anime lovers have ever said like, oh, I dislike reverse harems. Like, I have an issue with them. Only because for me, at least, I feel like reverse harems only come along every now and then. Like, to me, it is so rare for me to find an anime that is actually a reverse harem. Like, I feel like there was a period of time where they were coming out a lot, but currently I feel like there's not as many, and especially not as many as like harem animes tend to come out. So yeah, kind of weird. The next one they have on here is Maidsuma, and it says the most popular boy in school discovered the student council president's secret. So I thought this would go on and say like, hey, like they don't like the aspect that the male lead is kind of like manipulating or blackmailing the, you know, the student council president because he finds out her secret, which is basically like her secret is that she works part-time at a maid cafe to help support her family. But no, it goes on to say, even though many find this anime to be enjoyable, the sound and the characters can be unbearable to some. Once again, just like with Kami-sama Kiss, I don't understand what they mean by the sound and the characters. Do they mean sound as in the characters' voices? And as far as like the characters can be unbearable, do they mean like the characters' personalities? Which maybe I can kind of understand, but once again, the characters tend to grow over the course of the series and their personalities probably don't completely change, but maybe you yourself as the viewer start to like the character a little bit more once you learn more about them and they're not as like manipulative as they seem to be at the beginning of the series. So once again, kind of weird. Now the next one on here is Skippy. I personally felt some type of way with the title that they chose. So it says Kyoko seeks revenge on her ex-boyfriend. First of all, that's not true. In the show, basically, Kyoko moves with her friend to Tokyo because he wants to become like an idol, basically. And so she cooks for him, she cleans for him. So basically she's like doting on him hand and foot while he's trying to pursue her dream and his dream, and she gets tired of basically being treated as a doormat, especially once she realizes like what he's really kind of saying about her. But in reality, they were never dating. Yes, I think in the manga like maybe she might have had a crush on him, but nothing ever came of it. They never became like, at least so far in the manga that I've read and in the anime itself at least, they were never said that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. It was hinted at though that his parents did want him to marry her, but he just wasn't feeling it. But then it goes on to say, this is a great anime about getting over heartbreak, but the art style and voice lines can be very off-putting for some. It's been a long time since I've watched this anime, but me personally, as far as I remember, I didn't have an issue with the art style, and I actually personally loved the lines that all the characters gave. So it's just, but to me, the first part is misleading because if you've never seen like Skip Beat, then you think like, oh, it's all about revenge on an ex-boyfriend. Well, it's not. It's more so about like revenge kind of on a friend that treated you badly in the first place, but then also kind of like finding yourself, because like Kyoko has something very deep down that she like personally has to deal with, like personal trauma dealing with her mom. So that's something that she's having to deal with and having to confront. So yeah, don't like the first aspect of that. Next one they have is Sakura Kinomoto releases magical cards and must retrieve them before they cause trouble. And this is for the cards captor Sakura. And no issue really with that line, because that's basically what the storyline is about. And it says, this is another anime that has beautiful artwork, but the storyline and the characters can be extremely hard to like and enjoy. Card Captor Sakura was a children's show, or at least when it first premiered, at least in the States, it was very much a children's show. It came on WB. They changed a lot of the characters' names. They took out a lot of aspects within the show that did make it a little bit more adult. And so it was definitely a show for kids. I can honestly say that as a kid, when I watched this, I wasn't that into it, but it wasn't because of the characters or anything else like that, or even the storyline. I thought the storyline was fine. It just wasn't my cup of tea as a kid for me to actually watch. I was more heavily into Pokemon. But then when I got older and was in college, I did rewatch the show, and I rewatched it subtitled, and I rewatched it as it was supposed to be seen, not with all the cuts that were put in by WB, and not with the characters' names being changed. And I actually enjoyed it a lot more. So once again, I just feel like they should have elaborated a little bit more about like why the storyline people found misleading, or why the storyline people didn't like or found it extremely hard to enjoy. But to me, why was the storyline extremely hard to enjoy? Because the storyline was kind of like repetitive. A card comes along, it's causing havoc in her town. She has to capture said card. That's literally the entire series. Don't understand that. The next one they have, this is like going from 10 to 1, so this is at number 2, was Yuki Cross works to keep the secret of the night students in Vampire Night. And it goes on to say, however, the characters are often seen as irritating and difficult to like or connect with. This is probably the only one that I kind of agree with, only because I feel like Vampire Night definitely was one that people were kind of polarized on if they liked it or not. But I think it mostly has to do with some of the ships that were involved in Vampire Night, especially as the manga was ending, and the manga was taking a very strange turn that a lot of people just overall just didn't agree with. So this is probably the only one on this list that I probably can understand why they put it on here. And at number 1 that they put on here was Tsukino Usagi was a normal girl before she became the guardian of the solar system, Sailor Moon. So they go on to say that the reasons why is, even though this is one of the most iconic anime series of all time, true, the occasionally annoying characters and sounds are difficult to ignore. Once again, what do they mean by the annoying characters? Which the only annoying character I could see people kind of being annoyed with was Usagi, only because she does start out at the beginning of the series very much like a whiny crybaby. She doesn't want to do anything. She wants all the help all the time. If she gets hurt, she cries. But over the course of the series, she definitely starts to become a much more mature character, and she understands what she's supposed to do, and she understands that she is supposed to save Tokyo and that she is the guardian. And as far as like the sounds, once again, what sounds are you talking about? Is it the characters' voices? Is it music? What is it? So overall, that was all of the shoujo animes that they listed that people have a love-hate issue with. Overall, I just wish that they would have elaborated a little bit more, especially for the animes that they said that people found the characters and the sounds difficult. What do they mean? Like I've said before, do they mean sounds like the characters' voices? Do they mean like music? And as far as like the characters are concerned, do they mean like the characters' personalities? Do they mean like the characters' personalities' traits? Do they mean like the characters just never evolved over time and they seem to stay stagnant or stay exactly the same? That I can understand. But also, once again, me, myself, overall, and in the circle that I'm kind of in with an anime, or what I mostly see on my social media, is that I very rarely, if ever, have heard of any of these shows to be polarizing, of them being people hate it or people love it. It's always like people are more so like, I liked it but I didn't like this, or I didn't like it but I like that. Like, it seems to be kind of like a mixed bag. It's never more so like it's just polarizing. Like, some people are just like, it was okay or it was all right, but it's never polarizing. The only one that I can say that I feel like is mostly polarizing is, like I said, is Vampire Night. But overall, the rest of them never have heard a thing or had any inclination that it was a polarizing show where people either hated it or loved it. And I came across shows that people either hated it or people loved it. For example, Erased. Like, for some reason, some people really love that show or some people really hate that show. Or even Sword Art Online. Like, people either really hated it or people really loved it. Like, those are shows that I personally have seen online where people either hated or loved it. But for these shoujo shows, none whatsoever. And like I said, me personally, most of these shows I actually really did enjoy. Even Sailor Moon, I really much enjoy. It's one of my all-time favorite shows. But like I said before with Sailor Moon, I have looked beyond the rose-colored glasses that is my childhood of the 90s, and do understand that yes, there are some aspects in all of these shows, not just Sailor Moon, that were either problematic or parts of these shows that really weren't that great now that I rewatched it as an adult, or they're just not all that great overall. But yeah, just overall, I feel like this entire article was very clickbaity with some of the titles that they had before the show, like before they went with their explanation. And I also personally just felt like the article didn't give enough in-depth reasoning as to why these shows were so polarizing or why people felt the way that they did. Just saying that the sound was annoying or that the characters were annoying or that the plot was complicated doesn't really let me understand to the point where I'm reading it and going, oh, okay, yeah, I can see why people probably hated that aspect. Because for me, if I'm reading an article like this, I want to be able to walk away with it with an understanding of the other side, especially if I was someone that really did enjoy these shows and really did love them and had no issue with it, that being able to see the other side can have me be like, oh yeah, I still like the show, but I can understand how this can be, problematic, or I can understand why people would hate this aspect of said show or hate these particular characters. But I just overall wish they would have elaborated a lot more. And I feel like most of the article consisted of them explaining what the show was about and just leaving the last two sentences to actually say why people may hate this show or why people may have disliked this show. That's just my own personal opinion. Once again, no hate to this article overall. It was interesting for me to read and interesting to me to get what the 10 shows were on this list. Once again, I only didn't know probably 2 of them out of the 10 on here, so that was why I didn't talk about them. So like I said, read the article for yourself if you want to really see what they're actually saying, as well as get to know the other 2 shows that are on this list that I did not discuss. But yeah, overall, I just thought this would be a great discussion topic. So what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with what this article said? Do you agree with the shows that are on this list? Do you feel like that there are any other shoujo animes that were not listed that you feel like actually were polarizing, where people either loved it or people hated it? And did you personally, based on the shows on here or any of the shows on here that I talked about, do you actually have a love-hate with the show, or did you love it or hate it? Or do you agree? Basically is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, that's the video I have for you guys. I have links below to all my social media accounts. I have an Instagram, a Twitter, and a TikTok as well. On my TikTok, I'm also, and on my reels, I'm probably gonna start posting more of my like fan fiction I tend to recommend, because that's a little bit of a much shorter form of content that I enjoy doing. So feel free to check that out too. Links once again down below to my social medias. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and of course, please subscribe if you haven't already. I post twice a week on Wednesdays and also on Saturdays, so you guys will have a new video on Saturday. Saturday's video, I actually do plan to do another one of those tiered rankings, but this time it's going to be on shoujo manga. I was going to do it for Wednesday's video, but I decided to break it up a little bit, and instead that will be Saturday's video, so look out for that soon. And like I always tell you guys, stay positive, stay nerdy, and in today's day and age, stay healthy, and of course, please stay safe. All right, you guys, bye.